Hello everyone and welcome back. It's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and today I am back with part 2 of the Velvet Queen pendant tutorial, which is where I said I was going to show you how to make this triangular bail using Delica beads and 15-0 seed beads, which will be beading directly to the pendant that I shared with you in the first part of this video. If you haven't seen that one, I will link to that in the corner. And as usual, the full list of materials for everything will be listed right down below the video in the description section, along with the Sunflower Bliss collection that's available at Eureka Crystal Beads, containing all of the beads that you'll need to make this project and quite a bit more. Here's a close-up look at this bail, and if you'll be making this along with me, what you can do is string on a comfortable length of beading thread. I'll be using the 0.006 inch diameter 6-pound Fireline and a size 11 beading needle, and we'll be working this up using some Peyote stitch, starting out with our Delica beads. So if you'd like to go ahead and gather up your materials, thread your beading needle, then we can go ahead and jump into this tutorial. First, pick up 4 Delica beads and bring them down to your tail thread and leave yourself a 6-inch tail or so. And instead of using a stop bead, I'm just going to go ahead and hold that there and sew directly through that first Delica bead again, holding the thread together with my thumb and my forefinger and then pulling so that those 4 Delicas come together just like that. It's going to be the foundation or the start of our triangular bail. To secure this just a little bit more, I'm going to go around all of those beads again and come out of the same Delica there at the top, just one at a time. And then sewing through that one at the top and pulling tight. Now we're going to add on to this by picking up a Delica. And you can pick these beads up at random. You don't have to be specific about the colors. That's what's nice about this mix, is it's all going to coordinate and come together in its own random way. We're picking up a bead and sewing through the next one is what we're doing. So pick up a Delica and sew through the next, and then pull tight. And then pick up a Delica. Now I'm back to the beginning. I'm going to sew through the next Delica, and now I'm going to sew through the next new Delica that we had just added in this step. And pull tight. Now we'll complete our next round, and we're going to pick up 2 of our Delicas and then sew through the next one that's sticking out at the corner. Pull tight and repeat that all the way around. So 2 more Delicas, sew through the next one that's sticking out like that. Pick up 2, sew through the next one, and we have 1 more to go. And we're going to sew through the next one like we normally would, and then up through the first one that we added in this section and pull everything tight, just like that. So you should have this little shape here, which we're just expanding on that original set of 4 Delicas. Next, pick up 2 Delicas and sew through the very next one. Just get those situated. They're going to kind of sit on an angle on top of those other 2. Pick up 1 Delica and sew through the next. Pull tight. And then pick up 2 Delicas and sew through the next. Make sure those aren't twisted and set those in place, just over top of those other 2. Pick up 1 Delica and sew through the next. Pick up 2 Delicas and sew through the next. Pick up one, sew through the next one, and then 2 delicas again, sewn through the next, getting those in place. And for our last one in this section, we're going to pick one up and we're going to sew through the bead that we normally would have sewn through and pop that delica into place. And then we're going to sew up through that very next one on that corner, which started us on the round that we just completed. So pulling everything nice and tight and making sure that all your beads are popped into place, you should have something that looks like this. And we're basically just going to make this a little bit bigger to the point where we'll be able to fold it in half and make our triangle. So what's going to happen is at each of these corners, you're going to be adding on 2 new Delica beads. And then at each of these, I'll call them straight areas, the 4 lengths of this diamond, you're going to increase the number of Delicas you add by 1 after you complete each entire row. So before we had added 1 in between each of the corners, now we're going to add in 2. So first pick up 2 Delicas because we want to have our 2 over top of this corner. We're going to sew directly through the very next bead and pop those into place. And then pick up 1 Delica, sew through the one that is sticking out next. Pick up another one and sew through the next Delica that's at the corner. Pull tight. And now we're going to pick up 2 Delicas and sew through our next one, getting those 2 situated diagonally over top of the other ones at the corner. And to keep going, picking up a Delica, sewing through the next one that's sticking up on this side, picking up another one, sewing through the next one that's sticking up at the corner. And that brings us to the corner where we're going to pick up 2 Delicas and sew through the next and pull tight. So I'm going to keep going, completing that on these remaining 2 sides. And that's the next side complete. So again, to continue on, we're going to do 2 Delicas at this corner. And then for our straight area, we have 1, 2, 3 spaces now where we're going to add new ones all around the piece. And we're going to keep going the same way for a little while longer to make this piece bigger. And you might notice that when you get to the last side of a row, it can be a little bit deceiving because this last space gets a little bit narrower with the way the beads are settling in. But just keep in mind that that's still a space that you need to add a new bead. So it's just a good idea to take your time. And if you have to go back and fix it a little bit later, just know that you're in good company because I have to do the same thing sometimes. But now we've got all those in place, and I'm going to go up through that next one. And that completes this next row. You can see that it's already starting to have the ability to sort of fold in half at the center, which is really neat. And at this time, what I'm going to do is put a needle on my tail thread and weave that back in just to get it out of the way. And at that point, I'll meet you right back and we'll continue on with this bail. All right, so now with the tail thread out of the way, you can keep beading in the same manner, adding on 2 more complete rows, still using the Delica beads. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and I'll speed up the video. And once I am done with those 2 rows and back to one of our corner pieces, I'll meet you back and we'll continue with 1 more row using our 15 O's. So let's continue on. All right, so just double check that you have all of your rows the same length because sometimes it can be a little deceiving as it starts to be able to fold and bend a little bit. So I like to just go from, say, one of those center delicas and count out from there at each corner where I have 2 that are kind of meeting at a peak. And I count how many of those I have on each side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then starting here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. That's how I just double check to make sure they're all the same. And we can get started with our 15 seed beads. So pull those out, and you're going to do one more row the exact same way, just using those 15 now. So at the corner, I've got 2 of them picked up, going through the next Delica, and then just like we did before, picking one up, sewing through the next one, and popping in a 15 in each of those little gaps. Make sure you pull these each very tight after each addition to make sure they're in place. And I'm at my last one for this row. Got that. I'm going to go up that next Delica on the corner. Pull tight. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 15 going along this straight edge. Now at the corner again, I'm going to pick up 2 15 and sew through that next Delica. And I'll keep going, completing the remaining 3 sides. And now we're back at the very beginning of that row. So I'm going to add in that last 15 right there, going up the Delica on the corner and the next 15 where we started the row. Pulling that one in place just like that. All right, so as you can see, this beadwork wants to bend, and it'll be able to bend both ways, but just pick which way that seems to be most natural feeling and gently start to bend it in half, just like this. I've got one of my triangle beads out because it's going to embellish the front, just a tiny little detail touch. And my thread is currently coming out of one of these 15 on the corner. I'm going to pick up one more 15 and sew through the one next to it just to pop that one in place, that single one on the corner. And then I'm going to follow the thread path, going diagonally through some of these beads. Come out of this one that's just slightly to the right of the center, and I'm actually going to go down one more, just carefully going through that single bead, which is where I want to be coming out to add that triangle. So if we were to count from that bead in the very center of that group of 4 that we had added in the first place, counting out 1, 2, 3 rows from there, and then just 1 bead over. And at this point, we can pick up our triangle. I'm going to sew through the hole on the left with that bead facing down and string that on because it's going to be sitting right in the middle like that. We can pick up 3 more 15-0s just to add one final touch to cover up that area with the holes. And for now, I'm just going to sew down through the other hole or the open hole of that triangle. Pull that together just like that. And I'm going to sew up through the Delica that's at the opposite side. And pull. So you can see that's where the triangle is going to end up. And I just want to reinforce this section. And instead of weaving through more beads, from where we are now, I can just go up through that triangle bead again. Going up through that same hole, and then I'm going to go over through those 15-0 seed beads. And pull that nice and tight. Then sew through the hole on the right of the triangle, pulling that really tight once again. And I'm going to sew down through the Delica where we started, adding that triangle, pulling that tight. From here, I'm just going to follow the thread path a little bit, weaving through the beads. Just need to add that next 15-0 that is on the opposite corner like we did before so that it's symmetrical. So I'm just weaving up a couple beads at a time to get to that peak that's on the other side. And I'll be coming out of this 15-0 right here. I'm going to pick one up and add a new one in between those two 15-0s. So I'm going to sew down through the next one and through the next Delica as well. And now you can see that those two sides are matching up. And now we can weave back down to the bottom of this triangle, and we'll just go ahead and work with the same side, which will be the back of this bale. And I'm coming out of a 15-0 at the bottom and coming out of the right-hand side. Hold that back. And now we can pull out our original pendant again and flip it over. And with both of these pieces flipped to the back, I'm just going to hold this up. We're going to be putting the bale right over top of one of those triangle beads. So I'm going to sit mine like right here in this area, and we'll just connect these together. So right now I'm going to pick up a 15-0 and I'll go down through one of these beads. See, it just pulls that together. I'll sew through those next two 15-0s that are already in place. Pick up a new 15-0. I'll just go through the 15-0 and the Delica on the other side. And when you pull that tight, you should have something that looks like this. It's what you want. And we're just going to reinforce the section. I'm going to go down through the Delica next to that and around that little loop that we created. And back up. And coming out through the Delica. Here we go. You're welcome to go around that one more time. I think I'll go ahead and do that. It won't hurt. Sewing back up through those 15 O's, the next Delica, and then we want to follow our thread path toward the front of the piece. So now I'm just going through a couple beads at a time, a 15O and a Delica, kind of diagonally till we reach the front of the piece, and that's where we can secure the front to our pendant. So with this, there's more than one way to do it. However you need to, weave your thread through to get to the front, and one of those 15 O's at the very bottom, right underneath the triangle. All right, so coming out of that one now, flipping the piece over to the front. And now we can just take our needle and go directly through the Delica that's in place on the pendant at the peak in front of one of those triangles. And I'm going to sew up through the 15O and the Delica on the left, which will pull this all together just like that. And like we did on the back, I'm going to sew through that section again at least one more time to reinforce the piece and bring it all together. Don't forget to pull that tight as you go to train that to stay in half like we made it. There we go. And our bail is complete. So you can see it's got this opening here where we can thread in the hand-dyed silk cord if you wanted to use that as shown, or you could make yourself a beaded rope or use another type of medium. But now your bail is complete and in place, finishing off this lovely Velvet Queen pendant. At this time, just go ahead and weave in your working thread a little bit, hiding the thread in between the beads and making sure it's secure. And then you can trim off your excess thread, at which point we can come back and admire our work. All right, so here's the finished pendant all set and done. I just love how it frames out. That Lunasoft Cabochon looks so velvety and rich, and that bail gives us a substantial area to add our stringing material and turn this finally into a necklace. And that's just one way that you can finish off your Velvet Queen pendant. I hope this tutorial was helpful and enjoyable for you. If you did enjoy it, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel while you're here because I'd love to have you back. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know if you've made one of these or anything else you'd like to say, and feel free to share this video with your other beading friends. As a reminder, the full list of materials will be listed right down below the video, as well as the Sunflower Bliss collection at Eureka Crystal Beads, which contains everything you need to make this project, plus a lot more. That's all for this time, though. I hope to see you all again real soon. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. And as always, happy beading.